Record. Then let me. Okay. So good morning again and welcome. Welcome. I really am thankful that you made time to be here today. I do believe that this conversation really does matter. And already just from seeing in the chat, many years ago, which led me to join the chat. Oh my gosh, I wanted to talk and oh my goodness. You see, when we talk about those kind of levels of fatigue and the need for recovery, I think that's just making me realize just how important today is. So thank you for that. So today, I do believe this conversation matters. And today we're going to be naming something that leaders often misdiagnose, and that's burnout. Okay, we're really going to talk directly to burnout because burnout isn't always about overwork. I think that's the misconception. Sometimes it's about misalignment. You see, when your leadership drifts out of alignment with your values, with your calling and your spiritual rhythms, then weariness follows. Now, whatever the reason is for that misalignment, but when it does happen, weariness will follow. But here's the truth I want you to hold on to. And this one you might need to write down, okay? Fatigue isn't failure, it's feedback. Fatigue isn't failure, it's feedback. And by the end of today's session, my hope is that you'll walk away with a deeper understanding of why burnout is often spiritual before it's operational. So fatigue isn't failure, it's feedback. I want you to walk away with the ability to spot the subtle changes or the subtle signs of misalignment before they actually lead to collapse, before they lead to those moments of hopelessness, of I just want to walk into the North Sea and not come back. And I want to leave you with some practical tools to renew your clarity, your energy, and resilience from the inside out, which is where it matters. Now, I have to say, this is not about doing more, it's about leading aligned. Okay, it's not about doing more, it's about leading aligned. Okay, but first one, as always, just to check our mission. Our mission is to create a welcoming space where leaders are empowered to align their faith, their values, and ethics with their leadership so that you can lead with authenticity, impact, and integrity across every sphere of influence. So today we are going to explore, what burnout really is and why it's often spiritual before it's physical. We're going to look at the subtle signs of misalignment that leaders often overlook. I'm going to share some practical tools and practices for spiritual renewal in everyday leadership. So they're not big things. You might be thinking, oh gosh, I do this anyway. But do you? And let's just put that rhythm back in place. A guided reflection, as always, just to identify where perhaps realignment is needed right now. And then finally, an invitation to align, to reset, to walk this renewal journey together. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I think you do, but who don't know me well, I am an alignment coach mentor. That's what I do. And I'm dedicated to helping faith-driven leaders align their talents, values, and their spiritual gifts. My mission is to inspire positive change, to build ethical leadership, and empower purpose-driven leaders, purpose-driven individuals to create phenomenal business success and then leave, importantly, a lasting legacy. Okay, so I've got a few, let's just say burnout is more than overwork, okay? And I want to begin with this reality, and there's quite a bit in here. So I don't know if you know, but burnout has become one of the most silent epidemics in leadership. Did you know that? So if you did or you didn't, drop me an emoji. Just let me know if you are understanding. So burnout has become one of the most silent epidemics in leadership. And now there is a number of statistics that have come up. So the DDI Global Leadership Forecast 2023-24 reports that 60% of leaders, 60% feel exhausted at the end of the day. And 44% say they feel used up at work. I mean, they're not nice words, but that's what one report, yeah, thought it could be. Absolutely. The World Health Organization updates in 2024 continues to identify burnout as exactly, an occupational phenomenon, with over 70% of professionals reporting symptoms of burnout at least, at some point in their careers. That's 70% of people are going to face burnout in occupation. Gallup 2024 found that employees who lack personal alignment are significantly more likely to report emotional exhaustion, while those who see strong values alignment in their leadership are 55% less likely to experience burnout. And I think this is important. This is not just about those people experiencing it, but us as leaders. If the people that we're leading, don't see strong values alignment, it leads them to experience burnout. But when they do, they're less likely to experience. If we model great leadership in this area, it has a positive impact on our staff. The Harvard Business Review 23-24 reports that leaders who cultivate clarity between their personal values and their work up to 3 times more likely to report high resilience and sustained engagement. So that means that when we know who we are and we know how who we are shows up in our work, we are 3 times more likely to report high resilience and sustained engagement. And then finally, let's look at the faith leadership spaces. Sabana Group research again in 2023 revealed that 37% of pastors report being seriously burnt out, citing emotional and spiritual depletion as primary causes. Now, that kind of shocked me a little bit, given that, you think, oh, we're close to God as pastors, we've got that balance going on. But clearly, something isn't right. We're talking serious burnout, 37% of pastors. Now, I just think that all of that, just looking at that, is profound. Because what it tells us is this: you can manage your time. You can delegate your tasks. You can even take a holiday. But if your spirit is tired, none of that truly restores you. I'm going to say that bit again. You can manage your time. You can delegate your tasks. You can even take a holiday. But if your spirit is tired, none of that truly restores you. Because burnout isn't always about capacity. Often it's about disconnection. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It's not just about capacity, it's about disconnection. So let's just go beneath the surface of that for a moment and just look at what we're talking about here. So burnout isn't just physical exhaustion, it's often a result of, and get this, prolonged disconnection between what you're doing and what you deeply believe. So it's not something that just happens overnight. It's prolonged disconnection between what you're doing and what you deeply believe. And I believe we've had conversations like this in the past, but this is just naming it. It's that prolonged disconnection. See, when your outer work stops reflecting your inner values, then something begins to strain. And I call this, it's my little word for it, spiritual dissonance. Spiritual dissonance. And that's that quiet tension between calling and action, between who you are and how you're operating. Yeah, that tension between calling and action, between who you are and how you're actually showing up, how you're operating. And here's the danger, and this is a bit that we don't see. You can still look productive. You can still deliver results. You can still show up strong. So to the outside world, it's all good. But internally, something feels off. If we allow ourselves to kind of go internal, we know that something feels off. Okay, so we're still looking great. We're still delivering. Our bosses are still kind of throwing us up as, the most productive people in the world. And we can still show up strong. But internally, it's a different matter. The fatigue isn't always in your schedule. It's in your soul. Not your schedule. It's in your soul. And here's the other thing, which was a bit of a shock for me when I was doing the research, I must admit. That's why sleep doesn't fix it. A holiday doesn't resolve it. And even success doesn't soothe it. Because burnout at its core is often misalignment. When purpose and practice drift apart, weariness follows. And get this, the longer that drift continues, the heavier leadership begins to feel. Your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Because I'm seeing the faces like, what are the thoughts? Just drop a couple of thoughts. I mean, whenever for me, I just didn't make that connection. I thought going to sleep, all those things was going to make a difference. And then, yeah. And you do come back. It's Monday, Sunday's great. You have a good, drive back from wherever you are. And then you kind of go to bed and go, oh gosh, but it's Monday. And it all comes right back again. 100% true. And gives language to the feeling and the experience. Yeah, I was, it did kind of shock me. It made me think, oh my goodness, something has to shift. Something has to shift. So let's continue for a moment and we will get to the shift. But the first things first, what are the signs then? How do you know when your fatigue is more than just tiredness? Because don't get us wrong, there is this physical tiredness. We live in, fast-paced world, da 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 da. So we will get tired. We do a lot in a day. We will get tired. But how do you know when your fatigue is more than just tiredness? So here are some subtle signs that leaders often overlook. And as we go through them, I'm going to ask you just to reflect and kind of go, I do feel that sometimes, or I have felt that. And if that corresponds, then just put the number in the chat, okay? You don't have to do more than that, but just go, have I felt this? So remember, this is just about highlighting some of the subtle signs that we often overlook. So number one, you feel productive, but not fulfilled. So you're actually achieving, but something feels quietly empty inside. So if you've ever felt that, just put a 1 in the chat. So you feel productive, but not fulfilled. You're achieving, but something feels quietly empty. Yeah, I would. Okay, yeah, like me, I'd put a 1 in there too. Okay, a second sign. Yeah, I can really resonate with this one as well. So decision making feels heavier than it used to. So even small choices drain you. Just to say yes to this and no to that is like, oh gosh, I need to go to bed for a week to think about it. Peace feels harder to access. Okay. So if your decision making ever feels heavier than it used to, put a 2 in the chat. I mean, afterwards we'll talk a little bit. I had a really interesting call yesterday, and I can just say, tired this morning, but just because of the decision going through my mind all night. It's been really interesting. Okay, so we've got 2 for number 2. Fantastic. Okay, number 3. Now this is interesting. Work that once energized you now feels weighty. So the work that you used to do that used to make you go, wow, I really love this. All of a sudden, it's kind of, I'm not even got to put a free in, free appears. Okay. And this is not because you dislike it, but because it no longer feels aligned. It's just like there's something just off about it. I'm just going through the motions. I'm not even excited about that anymore. I've had feelings. Okay. So number three, if that's you, to join the person that's just not on her own. Okay, so anybody else feels like that, I'll join you. Okay, four. Okay, you got company now. Okay, four. Now this one I think is an interesting one. So irritation or cynicism starts creeping in. So things that once stirred purpose now trigger frustration. So yeah, I'd get some of that as well. So we've got a four in there. Irritation or cynicism. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Oh yeah, but yeah. Let's try and be, professional. And yes, we just really mean a but. Okay. So that's cynicism. We've got company here. And then finally, this is one, you feel subtly disconnected, maybe from God, definitely from others, and sometimes even from yourself. So, yeah, I have experienced that. So, yeah, you feel subtly disconnected from God, from others, and even from yourself. Wow. So, this is kind of really interesting. So, we've all experienced, at least three of these, okay, if not all of them. I just think that's really interesting, really interesting. But here's the thing that I want you to know, that these are not signs of weakness. They're not proof that you're failing. That's not what it is. They are signals. Write the word down, signals. They are signals. They're signals that something needs attention. They are signals that realignment is required. They are signals that your spirit is asking, begging to be restored. And the earlier that we notice them, the gentler that correction can be. And those of us who know that, the Lord does kind of give us those opportunities for correction that we may not like, or allow us to go into circumstances that make us have to recalibrate. The thing is, the earlier we notice these signs, the gentler that correction can be. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's kind of oh, we are going to go one. I thought we was going to move forward, but we're not. We're going to go one. Take a deep breath. We're going to go one layer down, and then we'll come out. Okay, so we're going to take this one layer deeper. Burnout isn't always doing too much. So I hear it often when I talk to people, and they kind of go, "Oh my goodness, Aranka, you've got so much in your diary. You need to just pause. Because." So sometimes burnout isn't about doing too much. Often, though, it's about doing too much without remaining connected to the source that fuels you. So it's not about the activity, it's about whether you're connected to the source. And that source is God. So when our leadership becomes detached from God, when we rely primarily on our own strength, on our own wisdom, and our own endurance, then our strength starts running on empty and something begins to drain. And this is not something that happens immediately. It happens gradually. So for those of us who are very competent, who are very at the top of our game, who know what we know what we're about, we've been doing what we're doing, we're very professional. When we rely primarily on our own strength, our own wisdom, or our own level of endurance, our strength will start running on empty. Because here's the quiet truth. The issue isn't always overwork. I want to write this down. It's often an over-reliance on self. The issue isn't always overwork. It's often an over-reliance on self. You see, as faith-driven leaders, when we carry responsibility without continually returning to God for renewal, I'm afraid to say fatigue is inevitable. When we carry responsibility without continually returning to God for renewal, fatigue is inevitable. Because spiritual resilience doesn't come from striving harder. It doesn't. It doesn't come from striving harder. It comes from resting deeper. Now, I'm talking to myself like crazy this morning. It doesn't come from striving harder. It comes from resting deeper. As Isaiah 40:31 reminds us, and maybe this is your go-to scripture, but those who hope in the Lord, and this goes directly to what was put in the chat first thing, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. But notice the order. Don't just look at the scripture and go, yes, I hold that one, I claim that one. Look at the order. Renewal first, strength second, movement after that. Renewal first, strength second, movement after that. Now, I don't think that today, I don't do coincidences. So I think today, the fact that we've got, Good Friday, we've got a long weekend, guess what? Guess what we can do? Any guesses? Any guesses? We can seek some renewal. Rest. In who? Rest in who? Because remember, it's not more sleep. It's absolutely, that's the point. It's not even my holiday. What I'm going to go and pack in my bag in a moment is my journal. Because I need to take some time away to write in my journal. That's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Eating chocolate, even though I'm not supposed to, but I will be writing in my journal. Okay. So, God never designed leadership to be sustained by personal strength. We think it is. He never. He never designed it to be sustained by self-sufficiency. He designed it to be sustained by dependence on Him. So when we think about big vision, when we think about business opportunities, ministry, all the things that God's poured into our heart, even with all of that, even with all the responsibility, He hasn't designed us to do it on our own. And you see, from that shift, from self-powered leadership to spirit-led leadership, that right there is where resilience is restored. It's where resilience is restored. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts. Absolutely, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's Christ. If we're not doing it in Him, mate, it's on our own. And we've got the formula. Do it on your own. What's going to happen? You're going to get tired, okay? You're going to be more than tired. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to feel disconnected. And I don't know what business we're doing when we're feeling fatigued and disconnected. All those other things will happen. Okay, now we get to some positive stuff. But before we do that, anybody got anything they wanted to just add to that? Just stick it in the chat. And then we can take a deep breath. Just those conscious breaths in and out and just move to the next stage of what we can do about it. Okay, so give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. Let's have some ways of dealing with it, please. Okay, give me some thumbs up. And I know we're ready to move into a different trajectory. Any thumbs up? Ready to go? Yay! There's a big thumbs up. Okay, cool. Let's go. So how do we rebuild then resilience when fatigue is spiritual and not physical. So when it's physical, we know we do need to go to sleep. We know we need to have better nutrition. We know we need to go out in the fresh air, those things. But when it's spiritual, you see, renewal rarely comes from dramatic change. Okay, we took little steps to get there. It was gradual, so it's not a big dramatic change. It comes from small, intentional rhythms. Okay, so earlier this week on LinkedIn, I shared 3 simple daily practices that I've seen make a real big difference for leaders navigating fatigue. They're not complicated, and you probably say that I do them already, but they are powerful. Because remember what I said? It's small, intentional rhythms. So sometimes it's the simple shifts that make the biggest difference in how we lead. So the first thing is the morning pause. So begin your day. So you might have a routine where it's devotion, this, that, or whatever. But before you get on with your day, just have a morning pause. So begin your day with 5 intentional minutes before God. Not to produce, not to plan, but just to be present. And in that moment, ask, Lord, order my steps today. Align my decisions with your will today. Even a brief 5 minutes of stillness before God can reset your posture from pressure to peace. You see, it's not about doing more. It's about being present with the one who restores. Lord, order my steps today. Align my decisions with your will. Okay, number 2. Number 2. I'll just grab a bit of water. The midday peace check. Okay, so around midday, lunchtime, or in the middle of your shift, whatever works for you, just take 1 minute to ask, am I leading from peace, or am I being pulled along by pressure? I love this one. In that moment, am I leading from peace, or am I being pulled along by pressure? That's a mid-morning pause. So that one question can actually reveal misalignment quickly. It's like, oh my goodness, I've got into it already. And if pressure is driving you, you can just pause and recalibrate. You can just pause and recalibrate. Because peace is a better leadership compass than urgency. So just at midday, just check in. Am I leading from peace, or am I being pulled along by pressure? And then the final one is the evening. Okay, and this is the evening gratitude reset. So just end your day by naming 3 things that you're grateful for. Now, obviously, this one's quite hard. So it again depends what your rhythm is. By the time you've said your prayers and you've done whatever, you're in bed tucked in, you've had your hot chocolate, you just want to close your eyes. So before you know it, you've gone to sleep. It's, wake up, my gratitude. So it's about that moment of having a pause and just being grateful. See, gratitude shifts your nervous system and it restores perspective. It reminds you that God is still at work, even in unfinished days. Yeah? Or even unfinished ways, even. It's like that, it shifts your nervous system. Now, what I'm hoping you'll get from these 3, and you might have a favourite, but remember what I said, it's simple rhythms of renewal. It's about getting into that consistency thing. So if you've got a favourite, you can put the number 1, 2, or 3, morning, midday, or evening. But then still try out the others as well. See, none of these practices will actually add more to your schedule. It's just a moment of thought. They will actually, all 3, fantastic, all, or 1 and B3. 1 and B, 1, B3. Okay. So what they do, they don't add to your schedule. They actually just recenter your leadership around the one who sustains it. So the gratitude one, when I do that, it's just like, oh my goodness, that happens a lot. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you for this, and that. And then I fall asleep. But I do get better sleep. Okay. The morning one, I can do that one. Okay. The midday one, I do find a struggle with that because if I just get into the rhythm and stuff, that can be a struggle. But, to make a plan to do all three. Morning, midday need practice, even gratitude more. Okay. Cool. Fantastic. You see, because resilient is not built by pushing harder, it's built by staying connected. So these are ways that we just stay connected very easily. Okay, so let's just bring it home then and make it a bit personal. So I'm going to ask you to take a quiet moment and think about the last 2 weeks in your leadership or the last 2 weeks in your diary. Okay. Where have you felt most out of sync? So just reflect back over the last couple of weeks. When have you felt, or where have you felt more out of sync? Is it in your energy? Is it in your clarity? Is it in your peace? Or in your connection with God? Where have you felt most out of sync? Your energy, your clarity, your peace, or your connection with God? Mm-hmm. And just as you were thinking about it, maybe you've been functioning well on the outside, but internally something's felt strained. Maybe you've had vision. I've got it now, Lord, but no joy. Momentum, but no margin. Responsibility, but no rest. So we've got energy and clarity, we've got peace, energy and clarity. So those of us who have felt out of sync with our energy and clarity, it's like using the peace of God to help us to be more aligned in those areas. And if it's about peace, then the practice pauses may help us. But it's just really useful to think. Now, I'd like you to type one word in the chat. So that was the last 2 weeks. Now, one word in the chat that captures where you most need renewal right now. Right now. So is that clarity? Is that rest? Is that joy? Is it peace, focus, or strength, or something else entirely? Okay, so right now you need renewal, you need clarity, you need strength, okay, peace, okay, energy and clarity. Okay, so I would have said joy a couple of days, but I had an amazing Lord's Supper on Tuesday night. It was just amazing. I just felt so much joy, and yeah. So right now it's strength, and again it's that godly focus. It's where do you want me to focus? Okay, so if you are journaling, if you're a journal person, I want you to write that down as well. So write down your area in your journal. I want you to bring that word before the Lord, because what we name in his presence is often the first step towards restoration. Yeah, so whatever you've written, if you're a journal writer, write that word in your journal as well, and just bring that before the Lord. And this seriously, when you guys are just so open, it really does bless my heart. So I do want to thank you for sharing. And I want you to know that naming this isn't weakness. This is wisdom. This is wisdom. And wisdom is the renewal, is the beginning of renewal. Now, I'm just going to share a very quick story. I'm looking at the time. I'm just going to share a very quick story. So I recently worked, and please feel free to drop any thoughts around it. If you are a journal writer, it'd be nice to know that, yes, I'm a journal writer. So it'd be nice to know who actually does journal. and then put a date next to today's word and see what the Lord does with that in the next coming days or weeks, or definitely after the renewal weekend. Okay. Anyway, so I was working. Okay, this is your encouragement this weekend. When I talk to you next, you'll be like, guess what I did at the weekend? I got my journal out. Okay, so fantastic. I'm a journal writer when I'm traveling. And so you can maybe integrate that into when you're being at home too. You're back now from your travels. Pick up the pen, same way. Okay, the same way. Fantastic. Okay, so, and if you haven't tried journaling, I often, one of the things that used to get in the way of me journaling, be like, I'm so busy, Ruth. I'm so busy. I haven't got time to sit down and think, do you know how busy I am? Like, go look for a pen and write down, not me. But when I started doing it, even if it's just like one word, my devotion, it might be the scripture that really caught my attention, even I read it 50 million times a day before, today it meant something to me. I write just that scripture down. Or, I might read my devotion and think, oh my goodness, I hadn't saw that before. And I just write that down. Or I might be just prompted to pray and I write that prayer down and I pray the prayer by writing it. And when I go back and look at stuff, answers come out. They jump off the page. So anyway, so that's a thought. And we can talk about that. Anyway, so this guy, this might be a really good analogy. So I don't know if you tell me if you kind of get this one. He said, he described his burnout like this. He says, I felt like I was driving with one foot on the accelerator and one on the brake at the same time. I'm like, yo, he wasn't overworked. He was spiritually overextended. I thought, wow. But you see, once he introduced a simple morning pause, asking God to order his steps before opening his laptop, things shifted. Now, his workload didn't change overnight, but his internal posture did. Peace returned first, energy followed. Now, right there, that's the renewal shift. That's the renewal shift. Okay. So if that's the renewal shift, here's the shift that I want to leave you with here today, that I want you to leave with here today. I want you to know that you don't need to push harder. You need to realign deeper. Because spiritual resilience doesn't come from striving. It comes from staying connected to the source, which is God. We know this, but it's about being connected. You see, when your faith fuels your leadership, energy flows differently. When your purpose aligns with your practice, peace becomes sustainable, not seasonal. Burnout isn't always a workload issue. Often, it's a disconnect issue. And renewal begins with reconnection to the source. Now, just to drop that, a Deloitte research by Deloitte in 2024 reports that over 80% of leaders say reconnecting to personal purpose significantly improves their energy and focus at work. So if I go back to here and I look at energy, that's come up quite a few times. Focus has come up quite a few times. Research says that when you reconnect to your personal purpose, that will improve your energy and focus at work. So what is my purpose and how can I use my work to fulfill that purpose? The Harvard Review and Business Review 2024 notes that leaders who intentionally, they put this in practice, intentionally nurture their spirit or their inner well-being. So they make that spirit thing, their spiritual journey, the most important thing. Demonstrate measurable higher resilience under sustained pressure. So when it's our spiritual inner well-being, it's what matters, what we put our attention on, that makes us more resilient, even when we're under long-term pressure. So in other words, alignment, being in alignment with God, restores your energy. Purpose, being clear about what you're here to do, stabilizes your performance. And spiritual renewal, by being connected to God, strengthens leadership longevity. We need all three: alignment, purpose, and spiritual renewal by being connected to God. So instead of asking, how do I do more? Maybe the better question is, where have I drifted and how do I return? Where have I drifted and how do I return? That's the renewal shift. So I'd be just interested just to hear your thoughts on what we've shared. Be interested to hear your thoughts. Did that make sense? Were there any light bulb moments for you? Have you come out there thinking, oh my goodness, I want this renewal shift. I now know how to get it. What are any thoughts that came up? Just drop them in the chat. And then if they come in as questions, we'll definitely answer them as well. Okay. So as we close, I want to leave you with this. Okay. Again, fatigue isn't failure. It's an invitation. An invitation to what? It's an invitation to slow down, to align, realign, and to let God restore what leadership has stretched. I'm going to say that again. Fatigue is an invitation for you to slow down, to realign, and to let God restore what leadership has stretched. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Lord, where have I shifted and how do I return from you? That is so it's beautiful. So I'm going to say, if today has surfaced something from you, for you, if you recognise that your exhaustion might be deeper than workload, then please don't ignore the signal. Okay, don't ignore the signal. There are things that you can do, there's things that we've covered. Please, do those things. I'd love to invite you to book a complimentary business faith alignment session if you've not had one, or if that would be helpful, or if you need to hear about the new containers that I'm now offering, you can talk about that. And this is a 40-minute space that will identify where misalignment may be draining your energy, clarify what needs realignment in this season, create a simple spirit-led reset plan for renewal, clarity, and resilience. But remember, I want you to get this is not about doing more. It's about restoring what fuels you. So use the QR code on the screen and the link that will come up. And if what you're sensing then is a need for something deeper, not just a reset, but sustained renewal, then I want to invite you to the Wisdom Circle. Now, this is an intentional space for leaders who recognise that resilience isn't built in isolation. It's cultivated in alignment, reflection, and spirit-led guidance. It's where you come to pause and be restored, to process what you're actually carrying, to talk about what you're carrying, and then realign your leadership with God's wisdom that flows from other people. It's a space where you're not just supported, you're strengthened. We don't have to carry this whole weight alone because you were never meant to. So that's the Wisdom Circle. So if you're interested in that, please drop the word in there. So let's wrap it up. Let me leave you with this. Wisdom Circle. Let me leave you with this. Burnout isn't always a signal to stop. Sometimes it's a signal to realign. when your leadership is out of sync with your values, your spiritual rhythm fatigue often follows. And when alignment is restored, so is clarity, energy, and your peace. Remember that God doesn't restore us through striving, though, but it's through realignment with Him, His connection with Him. So some takeaways that you've got on screen, so you can write them down if you haven't. Fatigue is not failure. It's often a signal that's worth paying attention to. Lasting resilience comes from an alignment, not just rest. And small, consistent practices can quietly restore strength and clarity over time. So, before you move on from today, just take a moment to consider, just as Judith has, what might your leadership be asking for? Where might your leadership be asking for alignment right now? Where might your leadership be asking for realignment right now? So if you'd like, please share one word or insight. So I like what Judith's written. You might have more. So one word or insight in the chat, please, in terms of what you've got. And it's there to just help you just to continue to process with intention this week. So just drop a word in the chat as we get ready to close. Final blessing then. I want to thank you for being part of today's session. I really do. Alignment, definitely. I'm just glad that I managed to bring something that we now know this is what we need to do. All of our lives are so busy. God has placed a lot on us, given us vision. Sometimes it's really tough to get going what He's given us. So I know the context we're operating in. But if you can walk away going, you know what, I need to be more aligned with God. I need to be connected to the source. I need to put those rhythms in place. Then I have done my job today. I truly hope it created a space, not a space for you, not pressure. Before you log off, just take a quiet moment to ask yourself, what is one small shift that I will make this week to protect my spiritual resilience? So don't push past this. Write it down. If it is, I'm going to go and get a journal and I'm going to start. If it is, I'm not. I'm going to change the label on my journal from travel to being at home. If I'm going to you know what, mate, I'm just going to, thank you. I know you love me. You're going to just say, you know what, I'm no longer lapsed. I'm now a faithful journal writer. Okay. You are going to receive a reflection work sheet in your inbox shortly. So just use that to continue this realignment process prayerfully and practically. And obviously I'm going to stay on for a few minutes afterwards. Yes, I can. What is one small shift that I will make this week to protect my spiritual resilience? So I don't know if if you could write that in the chat for us. What is one small shift that I will make this week to protect my... I can do it actually. So what is one small... I can type one small shift that I will make this week to protect my spiritual resilience. That's the question. Okay. So, copy that down. That'd be really cool. Okay, and remember, Jesus did say, okay, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So may you find that rest, not just in your body, but in your spirit. May your clarity be restored. May your courage renewed. And may your leadership flow from alignment, not exhaustion. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are being invited deeper. So thank you for being here. And until next time, continue to lead with faith, with resilience, because that's important. Stay aligned and stay blessed. I'm going to turn off the recording now. Stop the recording. Yay.